Hey guys, Manic Mercurian here back with another birth chart reading. This one is for Wednesday, February 26th, 1986 at 5:35 a.m. in Durango, Mexico. And you have Sun in Pisces, Moon in Libra, Aquarius rising. And so combining Pisces Sun with Libra Moon makes a very someone who sort of lacks structure and boundaries, someone who's very empathetic. You would think about other people more so than yourself. And there's this interesting combination of naivete with wisdom. So, even from a very young age, you were kind of sort of wise for your age, I guess. That's common with Libra moon people. And especially because your moon is in the eighth house, you can sort of detach from things. You can kind of just be an observer of yourself or of the situations that you're in. You'd be very observant, and even from a young age, you'd be very just sort of wise or understanding. You'd be very thoughtful and reflective, and very focused on other people. So you might be interested in like psychology or other people. You would just sort of naturally understand other people's emotions, and you would think about their emotions before yours, oftentimes. And then combining that with the Pisces Sun, you not only have Pisces Sun, but you also have Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter in Pisces. So you actually have a stellium there. So, combining Pisces Sun with Libra Moon again is difficult because you feel very ungrounded at times. You have such a vivid imagination, and I think you are good at understanding sort of abstract concepts. You having Pisces Mercury's in detriment there, so you're drawn toward ideas or um, people, ideas, information that might be counterculture or not, commonly accepted. So, like astrology, for instance, it would make sense to me that you'd be interested in astrology because not only would you be attracted toward, strange or unusual or counterculture information, but also I would see that you're very interested in studying people or studying yourself. Again, you have that sort of detached nature where you want to observe. And even though you are very detached, I think this is a chart of someone who's very emotional as well because you have a lot of water in your chart. Like I said, you have Jupiter, Sun, Venus, and Mercury all in Pisces, which is water, but then you also have the South Node in Scorpio. So that brings a lot of emotion into the mix. You feel very deeply, and you can sort of lose yourself in other people or what you're doing. I think you can slip into like different states of mind very easily, and it's that can be good for accessing different information or ways of being, but then it can be difficult because there's no structure there. You can feel ungrounded. You can be swept away in your own thoughts or emotions because you have such a vivid um, mind or a vivid mental picture. It's like you can just get lost in your own head, I would say. You just have so much air and water in your chart. So in short, that's really great for understanding abstract concepts, understanding other people, being sort of empathic, which I think you are. But then the downside is it can be challenging because there's no structure, so you can be ungrounded and you can get swept away with your own thoughts or feelings. Um, but um, but I think the remedy to this would just be to find the things that ground you, I guess. That's a huge lesson for Pisces in general. That you might want to escape. It's like Pisces is the fish, so it's slippery. It just slips out of your hand, and it's so fluid. So it's hard to really pin down or quantify. So your whole being, you're constantly changing and camouflaging. It's like you'd be extremely adaptable, especially socially. So you'd be really good at fitting in with other people. And again, that's all good, but it creates a lot of contrast within yourself. It can be very confusing. It can lead to you not even really knowing who you are. And Pisces can be um, a little bit mentally unstable at times just because it has so much going on. It's such an eclectic sign and it has so many different feelings. Pisces itself, as well as the rest of your chart, is interesting to me because you have this interesting mix of being very detached at times. I think you can be very objective and observe yourself, like I was saying earlier. But at the same time, you can also be very passionate, very emotional. So you experience this whole range of like detached objectivity and realism, with this emotional subjectivity and getting swept away with whatever you're feeling in the moment. So it's really a large spectrum that I think you kind of traverse mentally and emotionally. Okay, and you do have Mars in Sagittarius, so that's kind of, I think that's a nice redeeming quality. I think it's nice to have in your chart. Having so much air and water, it would make you kind of, like I said earlier, it would make you very wise, very observant. You would catch on to things that other people might not realize very easily. But on the other hand, could also make you a little bit gullible or naive. You would kind of go along with whatever other people are doing because you sort of lack that structure in your own identity. So it's really nice that you do have Mars in Sagittarius. Mars is sort of the masculine side of your personality, so it's how you fight and what you fight for. And being in Sagittarius, it is a fire sign, and so it is a mutable fire sign. So your fighting stance might be a little bit confused at times, or it might be constantly like changing. Where your stance is on any particular matter or situation. But it is fiery, so if you are confronted or in a crisis situation, you can have that like fire to you or that power. So I think that is nice because again, in general, most of your personality is not like that. You're just kind of going with the flow, very easygoing, very fluid. I mean, even your Mars is in Sagittarius, which is also fluid, but it does have that strong fire there where it can, defend itself when needed. And it is in the 11th house, which is a really beautiful house. Um, okay, hopefully that makes sense. You also have Saturn in Sagittarius, so this would really discourage you from traveling or experiencing other like cultures or worlds, other customs, especially at a young age. So you would just naturally almost kind of like fear traveling far or doing anything like wild or exotic or eccentric. You'd be very conservative in these areas until later in life. And I always say that most people experience a lot of progress in the area that their Saturn is in when they're in their late 20s, so 28, 29, 30 especially. There's often a crisis in this area that invites you to change and become, more mature, more wise in these areas. And later in life, you generally, hopefully, most people do tend to master that subject that they had so much initial hardship in the earlier stages of their life. Later on, they become a master in those areas. So initially in life, you might refrain from traveling or doing anything too crazy, but then as you get older, you'll learn to embrace these things, and I don't know, you'll find a certain wisdom or maturity in these, I guess, if that makes sense. I think that what I'm trying to say is that experiences like that are very good for your soul growth. It's just that they might not feel natural to you at a young age. Okay, since I'm talking about soul growth and these types of things, let's talk about the nodes here. So you do have your south node in Scorpio, north node in Taurus, and the south node is close to Pluto. I wouldn't say it's conjunct, but it's close. So you have this very Plutonian scorpionic south node. So this would indicate that at a young age you'd be very codependent. I won't sugarcoat that, and this also clicks with the rest of your chart as well. I think it's just building off what I said before. It's you have so many thoughts and feelings. I think you're an intelligent individual and even very emotionally aware. But still, even with all that being said, it's just hard for you sometimes because you feel so deeply. Like it's almost like you can't control it, or it's like your emotions take control of you. And I think this would be especially hard at a younger age. And the South Node in Scorpio kind of just indicates this that there's this intensity there, almost like you. I think you would really just drift off into other worlds in your head, like other. I don't know. You like you can. It's. I guess it's coming back to that strange mix of like sometimes you are so. Um, you are very insightful for sure. But at the same time, I think sometimes you can like take certain things and like run away with them, unintentionally maybe, or just emotionally. Because you are very sensitive. You're a very sensitive person, and so I don't know. Things can become sort of distorted. I think again, this is especially something that would trouble you at a younger age. and you would naturally make progress in this. The direction you're meant to go in this life is toward Taurus. So so you'd be kind of like Scorpio at a younger age. So, you know, really intense emotions that would take control of you, feeling kind of insecure. And these are some of the more challenging aspects of Scorpio that you would experience. So, insecurity, maybe possessiveness, or just feeling out of control, feeling like you're not in control of yourself or your situation, your surroundings. You would go from that, and then later in life, you would learn to become much more stable and grounded, and learn that you actually don't need to control your surroundings, that you can just almost relax, and then everything is fine. I don't That sounds so simplistic, but it's true. I mean, Taurus is a very simplistic sign. I think with Taurus contrasted from Scorpio, you know, in these later stages of life, you would just learn to, um, I don't know, to be still or calm, to be grounded, and learn that you can just have that stability within yourself, and that's all you need to do. You don't have to control what's going on, or you don't have to necessarily like analyze and project. You can kind of just like relax and observe and be grounded within yourself, and that's all you need to do. Not sure how else to say that, but it also points to becoming more like supporting yourself more, becoming more self-sufficient. I touched on you would be very codependent at a young age. That's a really strong factor, or a really strong pattern in your chart. But again, later in life, you would learn to become much more self-sufficient. You'd actually potentially kind of master that. You'd be very, just learn how to support yourself. I think it would still, of course, I keep saying what I'm about to say. I keep saying in these charts, but I think people who are interested in these readings are generally very empathetic, I guess, or um, I don't know. I don't know, but basically, it's very important for you to have a strong social group, whether that be family or a few close friends, because it would help to make you feel grounded. It would help to ground you and provide structure. I think consistency would really benefit you, um, because you are so adaptable, and that's great. You can keep that skill, and you can still use that or keep that ability. But at the same time, you need that groundedness. You need that structure. So yeah, I would really advise, just to prioritize having that strong um, group. And it doesn't even have to be a group. It could just be one or two people that are just really close to you that provide that stability. But yeah, I think that would be really important for you, since you are so empathic and um, yeah. Okay. Let's talk about. Okay, so I already touched on this a little bit, or I hinted at it, I think, but having Venus in Pisces, Venus is exalted in Pisces, so it's very strong there, and Venus rules how you. It's sort of the feminine part of desire and feminine part of your personality, and so it's also the style that you have with relationships. So you would be almost like I kind of say Venus in Pisces is sort of attracted to everyone, or it's in love with everyone, because you see the beauty in all things. Sort of, you can. Um, like I said earlier, you can get lost in like everything around you. You can just absorb your surroundings. So in a way, you do have this charm about you, and in general, your chart is very Venusian. You have Venus exalted. You have Moon in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So you would have this kind of flair to your personality, this attractive personality. Like people are sort of you have an allure about you that people find like comforting or find familiar. Um, and you would be, I guess I already said this, but you would be sort of in love with everyone to some extent. So you would potentially lack structure in your relationships, because you would feel so many different ways. Pisces is so scattered, and so if that's your approach to relationships, it could be a little bit confusing. You also have Mars and Sagittarius, so um, yeah, let's just talk about your relationships here, since I'm already doing that. You have Venus in Pisces, Mars in Sagittarius, and Descendant in Leo. And so you would be definitely attracted to someone very passionate, very emotional, very sensitive, someone very soulful and deep, someone really emotionally rich, and someone maybe charismatic, someone outgoing, and especially, the descendant is so important in relationships. So you'd be attracted to someone who's like Leo, so someone outgoing, who's the center of attention, who's very charming, charismatic, maybe very funny, has a very warm personality, very confident, and has so much energy and light that they kind of shower around with it to everyone else around them. You would want someone like that, and you would need someone like that to be happy in a long term relationship. So I would highly recommend someone with Leo planets, a Leo strong chart, maybe a Leo sun, for instance, or also just other fire planets as well. So Sagittarius or Aries planets, Sagittarius in particular, you'd be attracted to as well because your Mars is there. However, that would be a little bit more challenging because Mars represents what you'd be attracted to in a man, but it also makes things a little bit competitive and edgy. And then you do have Saturn in Sagittarius, which makes things more challenging, makes things more about learning, which can be difficult. And then you have Uranus in Sagittarius, which can make things unstable. So I think you could have attraction with Sagittarius, but it would be very kind of tumultuous. Leo would work much better, or maybe even Aries to some extent. Especially Leo, though. You have a connection with Leo placements. And then coming back to Venus, you do have Venus in Pisces, so I think you would want someone with like a little splash of water in their chart as well. Excuse me. And this would make sense too. I mean, you just have so much water in your chart in general. So you're such an emotional person. You're sensitive, creative, intuitive. You would want someone else like that as well. So someone who's not only confident and outgoing and warm, but also definitely, that has that emotional depth and, um, intuition or softness that you do as well. And you would be more detached than your partner. You know, you do have Moon in Libra, and so you naturally like being around other people who are more strong. I don't want to say strong-willed because you can be strong-willed in your own way, but you do naturally want to be around people who are more assertive than yourself or more um, confident, or who um, you'd be attracted to other people who are more decisive than yourself, for instance. And this is because you're so easygoing. You can be very indecisive yourself. So you like someone who's very confident, who can take charge, and even if they are maybe a little bit self-centered at times, you would enjoy that. You would like going along for the ride and participating in their self-expression and just kind of being their partner, if you will. And I don't know, following them on an adventure that they're starting, that they could take you on. In other words, you would not be the leader in the relationship. You would prefer someone else to initiate with you, and you would like to kind of just follow them along and adventure that way, I guess. And this is a very strong. I mean, I see this in multiple places. This is from your ascendant descendant axis. It's also in your moon. It's also in your Pisces placement. So it's a very strong pattern. I'm pretty confident about that. Okay, and let's see what else. Let's talk about let's talk about your career. So you have midheaven in Scorpio. Before I get into that, actually, I just want to say you have very strong like counselor vibes because you're so empathetic. You're focused on other people. I think you want to help other people. Especially with your Aquarius rising, you're kind of focused on solutions and improvement. And I think you do have a strong intellect. That moon in Libra is very objective. It's good at kind of analyzing things. Actually, you're constantly analyzing. Like, I don't think I emphasize that enough. That with Moon in Libra, you're constantly thinking before you act. You're constantly weighing things, and that can be very difficult. But at the same time, it would make you a very good counselor or someone who can help others with their emotions or with their problems, with their life problems, I guess. But going to the midheaven in Scorpio, this would indicate that you have some kind of career where you would be attracted to a certain level of intensity in your workplace. So this placement would make me think of like paramedics or firefighters or even counselors to some extent. Something where you see people on their bad day, or you see some kind of I don't know, you're centered around some kind of crisis in your workplace or crises, and there's an emotional intensity to it. So you wouldn't mind that. You'd almost be attracted to it, and that's very interesting because I don't know the rest of your chart. You seem like a person who's kind of softer and maybe I almost want to say shy, maybe, or maybe just kind of very sensitive. But at the same time, you're attracted to this kind of like intensity in your work environment, which is very interesting. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it almost might feel comforting to you because you are actually very familiar with this level of intensity. Again, you have your South Node in Scorpio, so you almost feel maybe more comfortable when things are very intense, like times of crisis. And this can be very challenging because it's something that you're familiar with that feels good to you. But if you stay there, it will destroy you. This is South Node that we're talking about. So it's your comfort zone, but the South Node teaches us you can keep those traits and abilities. You can keep that skill with dealing, with crises, or keep that emotional richness and depth that you have, but also learn to incorporate the Taurus North Node, which has to do with stability and self sufficiency, sovereignty, groundedness, etc. So I think this would be very important for your career. Your career would bring out a certain level of intensity in you. It would require a lot from you emotionally, I think. A career that where you're really, really giving the most of your abilities, I think would be very emotionally intense. And to maintain that, you would absolutely need to ground yourself. So you'd need to find things that ground you. One quick thing about compatibility in relationships as well. So you have no Earth planets other than Neptune in Capricorn. And whenever we lack an element, we're drawn to it. So you might actually be drawn to Earth signs. So that'd be Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. You would not really understand them very well. I think their groundedness would be simultaneously refreshing to you, but also maybe confusing or even annoying at times. They might feel too slow or too dense for you. They might feel too like monotonous. But at the same time, you're kind of drawn to that energy just because it's exotic. It's something that you don't really have. That kind of I don't know heavy groundedness, that practicality and pragmaticism. Not that you can't be practical, but I'm trying to describe the Earth energy. I think the main thing is it's very heavy and dense. So so anyway, you would be simultaneously kind of confused or irritated, but also attracted to this energy. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it in a long-term relationship because it would be hard to maintain that level of contrast between yourself and them. But it could work if both of you are very open-minded and whole within yourselves and are able to accept one another, even if your styles are very different. But going back to your career, so having this intense career, you really need to have that groundedness, and so you may have like an earth sign friend, again, that would be Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus, an earth sign coworker perhaps who could very much benefit you in your career, in your workplace, if that makes sense. Or it could just be some kind of earth theme, so learning to spend time in nature, learning to slow down, or um, you know, doing things that involve like cooking or some kind of art, some kind of creative art. I definitely see you're a very creative person, so finding some kind of medium that you could work with would be very beneficial for you because all in all, you need activities and people that allow you to express yourself creatively and to explore these very, you know, different realms of thought and emotion. You need to explore all that. You want to explore that. That's who you are. But at the same time, you need to do it with groundedness. So something like art or working with art would be perfect because it would satisfy all of this. It would keep you in your body to some extent. Maybe working with your hands, for instance. Um, you know, working with the mind, but also allowing you to explore these kind of other realms of existence in your mind, so to speak. Any type of like physical activity would be great for this as well. Again, I said like cooking, writing. You might be a very good writer, again, because you're so imaginative and creative and get lost in these worlds in your mind. I think you'd be an excellent writer. Um, Sometimes Mercury in detriment or fall, like yours is, can indicate someone who has difficulty writing or speaking. But at the same time, it's something that it can work at. It's challenging for you, but if you work at it, you can become actually very good at it. It's just that the reason why it's challenging, the reason why writing and speaking might be challenging for you initially is actually the same reason why you'd be especially good at it later on. And that's just because you have your own style of doing it. You have your own unique way of thinking that's unlike anyone else's. You don't learn like other people. You have this very unique style. So that does make it very challenging at first. It can make you very misunderstood. But later on, once you rise to that challenge and learn how to kind of cope with that initial challenge, then you have this really richness in your self-expression because you bring that uniqueness to the table. So that's where I see simultaneously that you might have challenges writing or speaking, but at the same time, if you learn to move past those and to develop these aspects of your personality, I think you'd be an excellent writer, perhaps, or something artistic or creative, something with writing or art, maybe even music to some extent, some kind of creative self-expression. And again, I already said this, but I really want to emphasize that something like this would be excellent for providing you that structure, but also allowing you to meander and explore these different realms of your mind. So I really just want to stress that I think some kind of outlet like that would be very important for you. Okay. You have the IC in Taurus, so this can be a little bit mixed. Sometimes it indicates a childhood that is materialistically wealthy, but emotionally lacking. And I think with your South Node in Scorpio, I think there was some kind of like intensity, or I don't know, like your childhood maybe was not emotionally supportive, I want to say maybe, but the Taurus rising can indicate material wealth. It's not always true, but it is. I think there's a tendency for that, or I'm forgetting the word. There's a chance of that being true, I guess. But I've covered most of what I want to say. I'm just kind of scanning to make sure I covered everything. Um, Aquarius rising is fun, is because it's fun because so it's your appearance, your appearance and your mannerisms would be sort of Aquarius, reminiscent of Aquarius. So that would make you. It's this kind of fun blend of you might almost appear kind of conservative or traditional or kind of modest or understated, but at the same time, there's this sort of uniqueness about you. So, Aquarius is fun because it combines this sort of conventionalism with radicalism at the same time. So you're almost kind of radical or rebellious, but in a sort of subdued, subtle way, a quiet way. You have this kind of quiet rebelliousness around you, which can be really fun. So, that will manifest in your appearance, but also just in your mannerisms as well. You have this sort of kind of quirky, quiet rebelliousness, which I think could be really fun. And I think, yeah, you do just to kind of wrap this up here. I think you do have many sides to your personality. I think you're very multifaceted. I think you might come across as being, well, you're definitely very easygoing and compromising. Um, you might come across as just being very mild mannered, but I do think you have these other parts of your personality that are very eccentric and even wild at times. It's just that there's a lot of contrast there, I think, in general. But that's pretty much what I see. As always, if you have any questions or if you'd like me to expand on anything, I'd be happy to continue our dialogue via email and answer any questions you have, um, or talk more specifically about anything you'd like. And for anyone else that's watching this, you can always, reach out to me if you would like a reading like this. Just email me at manic.mercurian@gmail.com or leave a comment on one of my videos as well. But thank you for this reading request. It's very, very interesting chart. I always say that, but it's true. And thanks for watching. I'll see you later.